When you create a company, it's hard to vision how you have to put all the pieces together to really be welcomed into the community so that you can make a larger impact.
It was amazing to see how the community came together.
I think that's the biggest part, is the community aspect.
How can we impact international communities at a bigger level? It really gives you a new perspective coming from America, a place of so many blessings, and going to a place where blessings are all around you, but it's not fixed on material things. It's fixed on the community, and it's supporting each other.
Permit were pushing hard. While I was going to chase those fish down, so many thoughts were going through my head.
Challenging ourselves not only to be better fishermen, but also challenging us to be better people.
It's an addiction. It's part of who we are, and it's something that we can do nothing but to just continue to give back to. I've made friends this summer that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. How cool is that?
Going to these schools and spending time with these kids really warmed my heart.
MANG got connected with Fish for Change in 2018. So not only do these kids come to fish, which is the highlight, but they also get to get involved with the community projects. It starts at the mangroves, but the big picture beyond connecting coastlines is really just helping out communities. Starting MANG, we wanted to give back to our local communities here in Florida. And as we grew, we realized we wanted to do that around the world. So in 2018, we did just that. Back in November of 2017, Keith and I had the opportunity to go to the BTT Symposium just to kind of begin our collaboration with the fishing communities and get our name out there and spread our Buy One, Plant One initiative. We set up for the show and I started walking around after setup, and I walked by this booth that caught my eye. And what caught my eye was a mangrove going into the ground. And that really struck me like, there's other people doing mangrove restoration. So I went over, and a gentleman named Steve Brown was sitting there, and I go, "What do you guys do?" He's like, "Well, I have this flat fishing lodge in Guanaja." And I'm like, "Well, where's Guanaja?" Where the heck is Guanaja? He's like, "In Honduras." And I'm like, "Cool, cool." I was like, "Well, how do you guys plant mangroves?" And he goes, "We've been doing this student program for 6 years, and every year our big project is planting mangroves with the community and an organization called BICA." And this is where the projects get handled, and then they roll from there. So I introduced myself to Steve and what I do, and tell him how Keith and I have been dedicated to planting mangroves for, 3 years at this point. And his eyes lit up. And he goes, "You have no idea what you just struck in my head. I want you to come out to Guanaja." Literally within 30 seconds of meeting him, he understood my mission. He saw my passion for mangrove ecosystems, and then wanted to show that to his student program. So when he began talking with me, he was like, "I've been doing this thing called Fish for Change." And I didn't really even know what Fish for Change was about until I stepped foot on the island of Guanaja. Guanaja is a very different ecosystem than anywhere I actually work with in Florida.
The Fish for Change movement and the student program enables kids to be immersed in a trifecta of fishing, service work, and academic reflection.
Fish for Change is that next generation, but we're all getting older and that next generation sneaking in with every coming day, and it's time for us to reflect that upon them.
So there's 3 main types of mangroves. Just so happens that there's actually the 3 main types of mangroves are actually in Guanaja. Guanaja is a small island off the coast of Honduras. It's right next to Roatan and is uniquely positioned to be in one of the best fisheries in the world. People of Guanaja call Guanaja the Green Island. You had different types of ecology. You had mangrove shorelines, you had beaches, you had pine forests, you had so many different types of ecosystems and ecotones. You even had rainforest type environment where a waterfall came straight out of the mountain right into the ocean.
Guanaja is one of those places in the world that's super special. Out of like a textbook or a movie. It's a magical place that looks like Jurassic Park. So as soon as we got there, we knew we were going to be in for an incredible trip.
Where Flatfish Guanaja is located is a very unique place called Jones Key. Jones Key was this little spit of island right off the coast of Guanaja, and bonefish were actually tailing daily right around the key. And it just so happened to be on the breakwater or barrier from the ocean to the coral reef. Do you know what a tuk-tuk is? Well, Keith and I sure didn't. We used to ride around the island in these little three-wheel taxis. Tuk-tuks hardly could get up a hill, but they were truly a unique experience because we had never been in one. And to be in a tuk-tuk with 6 people, it's a little bit interesting. Beyond the tuk-tuks, we got to experience a bunch of different activities.
And I think one of the biggest things mutually for both ends of things is just these kids had so much fun interacting. Verde. Verde.
Black.
Azul.
When kids get together with the common interest of fly fishing, and those other supplemental aspects are brought in and they're guided through reflection and writing and academic thought about what's going on in the island, what are the problems of the island, what can we do, and how can we put our best foot forward with the people of the island in the student program. When that starts happening, kids take off and run with it.
Even though Guanaja is part of Honduras, most of the people actually spoke English. So we were able to connect with them at a higher level than we even anticipated. The people were nice, they were genuine, and they were down to earth. They lived a very simple life, but it was a rich life. Though they don't have lots of material possessions, they had community. And that community was so strong, and everyone was loving and welcoming to the MANG team and of course the Fish for Change team.
Going to these schools on Guanaja and seeing the kids and seeing how, the simple things that they had brought so much joy to them really warmed my heart and made me feel very grateful for what I have, but also how you can live life simply and still have joy and happiness and not be so dependent on materialistic things for happiness like we do in America.
Fish for Change is an enhanced program. It opens the door for kids from different countries to work together on certain projects. So not only do these kids come to fish, which is the highlight, but they also get to get involved with the community projects.
We're building art on streets, building these permanent mosaics.
All the kids in the community, every time we showed up with our supplies, we were sprinting down the streets as fast as they could because they wanted to be part of it too.
We were also going around and doing hikes through the wilderness and checking out the landscape of Guanaja, going to the top of these waterfalls, and actually catching some fish that were on the island.
So pretty.
During our trip, the first 2 weeks were incredibly challenging for fishing. Not only did we have bad weather, heavy winds, and a variety of things going against us, Guanaja is a challenging fishery. The lack of habitat and the pressure of fishing over the years has made the fishery quite difficult to actually get fish. We hit the 3rd week, the weather calmed down, the skies cleared, and sight fishing was a go.
This was actually the first day that Kyle and I got to be on the boat together. So we get on the panga, the motor fires up. First school of fish we see for the day is a school of permit, and I'm on the bow. And I'm ready to go, and I throw my cast out. I get it out there. The school actually turns right into where my cast went, and I start strip.
Let him run, let him run.
Let him run. You on?
Yeah. I hope that's him. Oh, no. Let him run, let it run, let it run.
What is it?
I don't know what it is.
What has he got? I don't run like a permit.
Let him run. Let's see what it is. Jack.
And Jack eats my fly in the middle of this permit school, and I thought it was a permit the whole time. I was a little heartbroken, but it was still really cool. And I think as we got the Jack towards the boat, it popped off, you know, right as we were pulling it over. So we move on for the day. Kyle gets some bow sessions, and you know, we're kind of switching on back and forth. And the fish weren't necessarily cooperating. So we pull up on this one shoreline, it's slick flat. We start to see some bonefish. So we actually see this phenomenon which bonefish do, which is called mudding. They're stirring up the bottom, right? And they're just kicking up all this mud. And we knew that there was a bonefish right there. So I cast it into the mud. As I let that fly drop, I felt it get taken. Drag starts ripping on the reel. It's my first bonefish I've ever hooked. We get it back towards us, and I'm just so worried about losing this fish because there hadn't been many bonefish caught in the trip. You know, so we get it in, you know, we're holding it. The fish is in my hands, and I'm just like, man, I got so much respect for this fish. And I think it was about like a 3-pound bonefish, somewhere in that range. I'm not a bonefish expert, but it was just really cool to be able to have this powerful animal in my hands and to see the beauty of it. I just remember holding it in the water and just being like, wow, this is just such a beautiful fish, and we're just so thankful for this moment in time to be actually able to catch one of these fish and to be able to have that experience and for it to be in Honduras and on this amazing trip. The stars aligned for sure, and it was just one of those experiences I'll never forget and one of those things that I'll never take for granted.
It was so fun watching these kids tell their fishing stories and tell stories about just their love for the environment and the way all of their eyes lit up. It's an addiction, it's part of who we are, and it's something that we can do nothing but to just continue to give back to and continue to fuel that fire for the rest of our lives.
Kids catch permit and bonefish and tarpon, and you know what really sticks with them are the relationships they make with the guides and the experiences that they have on the island that they couldn't experience anywhere else.
Watching my brother Keith catch his first bonefish was really rewarding. Watching all these kids and helping these kids catch fish and stepping off the bow and letting them get shots was probably more rewarding than me actually holding the rod and feeling that drag rip.
Hurricane, it's been about 21 years ago.
We had all of our mangroves taken away, and
the mangroves that were a couple of 100 years old got killed.
everything was sad, man. It was gone, everything was killed, dried up.
The amazing thing was the community already understood the importance for mangroves. When you lose 99% of one species after one storm, light bulbs go on. You see instant death all around you, which put them in fight or flight. These people are like, we're gonna fight for our ecosystem. We know we're losing elevation around our island, and we know that mangroves were holding that elevation. So what can we do? Let's rebuild and let's restore. So during the 3 weeks we were there, we actually only got to put mangroves in the ground once. We also had never been to the site before, so I was learning on the fly. We had around like 1,000 mangroves for the kids to plant. We got there, it was mucky conditions, the kids got dirty, they got their hands wet, and they got to learn a little bit about what it takes to do mangrove restoration. And they could see that there was existing restoration happening before that worked.
It gives me chills when I'm wading a flat or I'm pulling a flat. You used to be able to see straight back into the river mouth. And now you go by and it's filled with towering mangroves that we planted 7 years ago.
The mangrove brings everything back. Now we got fish coming back, 100 permit, that length to that length, you know what I mean? So they were producing, and all those fish gonna go back to the mangroves.
And I felt like this was one of the more rewarding activities. So to get your hands dirty and to get planting, it's 2 thumbs up. You know, after Hurricane Mitch, they were devastated, but they rebounded with nothing. And I think we have a similar story in America. For like 2 or 3 weeks after a big major storm, everyone's connected and helping each other out. But once everything's back to normal, we kind of just go about our day to day once again, and things didn't like happen. But like here, Mitch took everyone so long to rebuild that the community got tighter. The people got closer, and it really brought them all back together through like this major event. And I would love to see like Florida and other places have that same connectedness where community is just so important and we're always helping out our neighbors. And I think that's the big thing I took from this island, was like everyone knows everyone and everyone is willing to help each other no matter what, at any cost. We're 2 weeks into our trip, running into the 3rd week, and the weather started clearing, things started to line up. I felt like there was this magic in the air, that something magical was gonna happen. Hagen hadn't caught a permit yet. He had been part of the Fish for Change program for 6 years, and not once did he actually secure a permit on fly.
The permit is like, it was just this figment to me. It was a ghost to me. It's this illusion that I was chasing for 6 years. In that time span, I hooked up to 3 different fish and lost 3 fish. I don't know what it is, but I just like, I was like neurotic about these fish. Like when I casted at them, it wasn't like I was casting at any other fish, like 100-pound tarpon, bonefish. It's just the permit is this like, it was this unattainable thing to me that I created in my mind.
The last week, there was a school of permit that kept showing up behind the island almost every day. And sure enough, he's up hanging out on that side of the island. He sees the school coming in, contemplates if he's gonna fish it or not, because he hadn't caught one yet in so many efforts and attempts. And he says, you know what, let me go give it a shot.
This school just starts coming up to us, and it's like a school of 20 fish, and then these fish just disappear. I'm like, you know, typical, right? Sure enough, these fish pop back up. I made a cast, and on the first cast, I look over and it was right in front of these fish. I said right when the fly landed in the water, I go, that's the one. Literally first strip, I come tight and I just freak out, and this fish takes off and Will starts yelling, I start yelling, And then immediately in my mind, I'm like, just please, I'm praying for this fish to stay on. My good buddy Jack Gillenwater, when he leadered that fish and grabbed its tail, I just like was in shock and in awe. All of these misconceptions and ideas and just mind tricks I was playing on myself just kind of faded out, and I was just looking at this emblem of Fly Fish Guanaja and what Fish for Change is, and it's this permit that brings kids back or brings kids here, and then the island and this program keeps them coming back. And it was just a fish. And I think that's like the most important takeaway that I think some of these kids get.
Sun was setting, kids were sprinting, everyone was hooting and hollering, tears were rolling down my face because I'm super dramatic, and Hagen had his beautiful first permit in his hands right off the back deck.
Everyone is ecstatic. The island is alive. People are running around like crazy, like they've never seen a fish before. I would say it was the icing on the cake for the trip and really lifted the story for Fish for Change. Hopping on the boat, leaving the island, and head to the airport. I almost didn't want to leave. You know, Guanaja became such a special place to me, and I know to Keith. You almost get used to how easy the lifestyle is, how comfortable it is to live with less. We're just so blessed to have that opportunity as a good memory for our brand and a reflection of the small steps that it's taken us to get to being an international planting company. Learning from others, taking those programs and enhancing them, understanding the community-based ecological mangrove restoration is the way. Being able to educate, being able to teach restoration techniques, being able to show people that you can bring together a community to make a larger impact. One mangrove can change lives, and two can do more. So keeping that growing and going is important for those island communities so that they can rely upon their resources for future generations.
Thanks for watching another episode of MANG TV. Guanaja is a special place. If you like the content, hit that like button and subscribe.